redefine your business every 7 years. In this episode, I am going to address the question, how do I stay current with changing markets and technology, especially in business? And I'm going to share with you some of the most powerful concepts that I have invested north of $3 million in my life to learn, and how critical it is to redefine your business at least every 7 years, or you will be out of business. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I have actually coached over 5,000 business owners, entrepreneurs, many of which are financial advisors, CPAs, tax attorneys, but also doctors, dentists, chiropractors, realtors, all kinds of business owners on how to take their business, their entrepreneurial practice, to 10 times in less than 60 months while simplifying their life. Many times they go, what? You mean I don't have to work 10 times harder? I go, nope. You'll actually simplify your life when you learn these 10 keys. I know, because I have invested over $3 million learning these. And I went through a period where I 10 times my practice way back from $500,000 a year up to 5 million. And then from 5 million up to 50 million. And these work. So when I speak to audiences all over the country, conferences where business owners are there, I oftentimes will talk about 10 keys to achieve a meaningful transformation to the top of their industry and beyond. I usually get a standing ovation because these are very dynamic concepts, but I pass out a big 11 by 17 cardstock scorecard to them during my presentation. Many times when I do a full day workshop, I will also use this scorecard. I'm in the process of writing a book now, 10 Keys to Achieve a Meaningful Transformation. And this scorecard is also at the back of the book. So what I do is I list these 10 keys over here on the left. This particular episode is key number 10. So if this is the first video you've watched as it relates to these, I would encourage you to go onto my YouTube channel and search for the other 9 keys so that you can get an understanding of how critical all of these are and how they work in harmony with one another to dramatically transform your business to a higher level. But key number 10. What the audience does is when I teach a key or a principle, they score themselves over here on a scale of 1 to 10 between poor, fair, good, better, best. And so I'm going to read to you the actual descriptions of what this key is about, because it's titled Redefine Your Business Every 7 Years. And I put in parentheses here by marketing and innovation, by investing in that. So down here in the poor area would be this mentality. You're successful selling your services or your goods, whatever you do, using fear of loss tactics. Now, if that's how you survive in your business, using fear of loss tactics, you're going to be out of business sooner than later because you're not staying current with what's going on. One rung up on the ladder would be you reluctantly make changes when forced to do so because of your competition. If that's the only time you make changes is when your competitors force you to, no, you need to be ahead of your competition, not following them. Good would be, you know that business has 2 basic functions, marketing and innovation. See, all the rest are costs. That's good. But what's better than that? You work your current company and develop your future company at the same time. I'm going to share with you, if you focus on just the current company, you'll probably go bankrupt. If you focus on the future company and don't take care of the current company, you'll also go bankrupt. There's many entrepreneurs that have experienced that sad realization. But best would be you redefine your business at least every 7 years and maintain the very predictable results that you want to achieve as you stay current and you have the latest and greatest. My goal is to help you raise this score. When people have a score of 30, 40, and 50s, my goal is to help them raise their score to over 90. So in this particular one, to have a score of 9 or 10 in that, let me share with you how to be able to redefine your business at least every 7 years. So let me give you some stories to illustrate my point. In 2011, 12, I was in New York at Times Square at the Marriott Marquis Hotel at the Genius Network meeting, the annual meeting. I was sitting on one of the front tables at that conference, and at my table was Steve Forbes, okay? And he was a speaker talking about this very topic, about how you must redefine your business every 7 years or you will be out of business. Now, he actually told us in the audience that if Forbes magazine had not totally redefined the way they did business in the previous 7 years, Forbes magazine would have been out of business. They would have been bankrupt. And people go, really? Yep. See, he explained that 7 years earlier, the model for Forbes magazine was having like 17 full-time writers that wrote the articles for Forbes magazine. And they had salaries of $200,000, $300,000 a year and so forth. And he had this overhead and so forth. So he realized that if he kept doing that way, he would soon be out of business. So over a 7-year period, he transitioned to tens of thousands of writers at zero cost. In other words, Forbes said, hey, all you people out there that would like to be published in Forbes magazine, why don't you submit your articles and we will have editors go through and choose, and if you're selected, we will publish your article, but we only publish a very small percent. All of a sudden, Forbes magazine had thousands of contributors, thousands of articles coming in, and now he had a staff that just sort of edited and took those articles, and people did it for free. He says, now we get all of our content for free, and all we do is edit and pick and choose. He said, if we had not changed, we would have been out of business. Now, at that same conference was Arianna Huffington of the Huffington Post. She goes, yeah. She says, all I do is have people create the content. They just want to be published in the Huffington Post. So I have all these articles and opinions and so forth. And the next year at the conference that she came back to, she had just sold at that time the Huffington Post for millions of dollars. She didn't write the content. She had other people write the content and contribute it. It almost goes back to my good friend Mark Victor Hansen, who was co-author with Jack Canfield of the Chicken Soup for the Soul Stories and all those books. And the story goes that Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen came up with this idea of these little short stories. But they went to like 128 publishers and they saw, no, that'll never fly, that'll never fly. Well, finally a publisher picked it up. The other publishers regret it to this day because at a bookstore like Barnes & Noble, the Chicken Soup for the Cat Lover's Soul, I mean, they have 3 shelves of books and they never write the stories. They collect the stories. Now, Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield have written a few of those, but all they do is say, you want to be published in the Chicken Soup for the Soul Stories? Submit your stories, and if we like it, we'll tweak it and we'll publish it and we'll acknowledge you in the book. They don't even write the stories. They just compile it. It has sold more by triple than Og Mandino's books have sold. Folks, see, you have to think out of the box. Another example would be Uber and Lyft. They are responsible for more transportation in the world than all the taxi cab companies and mass transit put together. They don't own a single vehicle. They just created an app where people who had vehicles and they were driving around wondering who needed a ride with people who wanted a ride. It totally transformed the transportation industry, and they don't own a single vehicle. Same thing with Airbnb. They're responsible for more lodging than Marriott, Hilton, all the big hotel chains combined. They don't own a single property. They simply find people who have properties who want to rent a room or their house or an apartment with people who would like to go and stay and lodge at some area or resort or convention city. See, these are people who sort of redefine and transform the industry they are in. And if you don't stay ahead of it, you'll be out of business. So let me give you an example. I know the coach that was hired as a consultant for Kodak. Now, Kodak, the film company, they used to be a Dow Jones, the top 30 company in America. Well, he tried to tell Kodak, listen, you've got to change your mindset. You are not in the film business. You are in the image capturing business. Kodak just couldn't get their arms around that mentally. They thought they were in the film business. So they're out of business. In other words, people don't care about film so much anymore. They needed to stay ahead of the curve with the digital method that most photographers began to use. And so if you don't redefine your business, you'll be out of business. I also have examples that I teach, like Mark Antoine. He was working in his company, but all of a sudden he was asked to give a eulogy at his uncle's funeral. He didn't know how to give a eulogy. He went online and found out by Googling there wasn't any information about how to write a eulogy. So he did, and then he created a little book for $9.95 on instant eulogy. And he makes over $100,000 a year with downloads at $9.95 on instant eulogy. Then he was asked to give a wedding toast at his buddy's wedding. He went online and he couldn't find any information on how to give a wedding toast. So he created a little downloadable book for $9.95 on instant wedding toast. He makes over $100,000 a year on downloads of that. Then he went to public domain publications like the Army's Survival Guide. He went through, because it's public domain, he updated it, and that's his survival guide. He makes over $100,000 a year. He has over $300,000 a year coming in from 3 little books that he just now sits there and watches the orders come in at $9.95 because he adapted and he was able to quit his job and just come up with ideas that create value. So this is why it's so critical to rethink your thinking and figure out ways how you can stay ahead of the curve that the business is going in and stay ahead with technology and have the latest and greatest. So let me connect the dots for you and give you the key takeaways of this final key on how to redefine your business, because it has to do with marketing and innovation. So in order for me to focus on redefining my business, I don't do it just in one fell swoop. It's a gradual transformation, a process. And so this is why many times with my executive team, we will take time to ask questions like, okay, if we stopped marketing the way we've been marketing for the last 7 years, for example, I have a national radio show. If I stopped doing a radio show, just like that, what would we do differently to reach the same amount of people? If I stopped going out and doing live speaking events, what would I immediately start doing? Now, does that mean I'm going to do that? No, but you've got to get your mindset around that. Guess what happened? During COVID-19, I couldn't go out and do live events, but I was able to pivot on a dime and go from live seminars to webinars and go online just like that, because I had already gone through the thinking process on how to redefine my business to online virtual meetings and conferences. When you do this, you will be nimble. You can adapt as you begin to understand, okay, what is it that I need to do to stay ahead of the curve, to be able to use apps, technology, to stay ahead of my competition, and you will become the competition. And so one of my favorite laws that I like was actually Peter Drucker. He's the one that said the entrepreneurial business or practice has 2 and only 2 basic functions: marketing and innovation. All the rest are costs. And so when you think about that, we have on our team, whether it's the receptionist, the bookkeeper, we get together once a month and we all brainstorm and talk about how we all contribute to marketing and innovation. I don't care what you do. If you don't contribute to marketing and innovation, your days are numbered. And I think that's one of the keys on how we've been able to redefine our business, because everybody is on board with marketing and innovation, because all the rest are costs. So by applying these types of principles, you will find that life will erupt all around you like a bee going out and collecting nectar. New life erupts all around the bee, and it's oblivious to the fact that it has something to do with it because it was cross-pollinating the botanicals. By doing this and doing these thinking exercises with other entrepreneurs, you will have new life erupt around you and new relationships and strategic alliances that will help you stay ahead of the curve. So my hope and wish to you is that as you learn these 10 keys, you can redefine your business every 7 years. You will be able to work on not just the current company, but on the future company, because I've seen too many sad stories where entrepreneurs were focused so much on the current company, they didn't focus on the future company, and they ended up in bankruptcy. Or other companies that focus so much on the future that they ignored the cash flow current company and they had to file bankruptcy. You must keep a balance, and by using these 10 keys, I assure you, you can take your entrepreneurial practice to 10 times in less than 60 months and actually simplify your life.